Pocket Reddit presents r/AskReddit. What's a fact you know that almost everyone is wrong about? Migraines aren't just a really bad headache. Headache is one of the 4 possible stages of migraine. You can have migraine symptoms without your head hurting. Here's a good picture, although note that not all migraines hit all 4 stages. Edit, thanks for the awards. If it help anyone, my migraines have been less severe and less frequent since I started regularly taking magnesium supplements, which is depleted by another medication I take. Those that can't do, teach, is a mockery of a quote by Aristotle. Those that know, do. Those that understand, teach. Not sure if it's for most people, but the people I've come across had this wrong almost always. Canberra is the capital city of Australia, Sydney is not. Water isn't actually conductive. It's the impurities in the water that allows it to conduct electricity. Edit, for those that are commenting that it can conduct electricity albeit not very well, I am aware. But it conducts so very poorly that it is essentially negligible. So for simplicity's sake, it's easy enough to say it doesn't conduct electricity. Ostriches don't bury their heads in the ground. It would also take at least 2 people to fuck one, regardless of its health. Marie Antoinette never said let them eat cake. The first written account of this story is from 1767 and doesn't attribute the quote to her. She would have been 12 at the time, and would go on to marry Louis XVI 3 years after this quote was initially published. The Mayans didn't disappear or go extinct. They still live in Central America and speak at least 24 different Mayan languages. The last Mayan city didn't fall to Spanish conquest until 1697. Same for Aztecs. Nahuatl is still spoken in Mexico. While serving on an airfield, I remember telling a non-aviation friend that there was a plane coming in about an hour from then. He said that was impossible, because the tower is closed. I explained to him that flights come in all the time when the towers are closed. Even commercial jets are constantly landing without the tower being open. He absolutely blew up, said I didn't know what I was talking about, and that planes would crash all the time if that were the case. How could planes land without a tower? That just makes no sense. I even got my superior officer on the phone the next day to explain it and he still wouldn't believe it. I had 3 other people under me explain it to him and he still wouldn't believe it. I told him, dude, it's really simple to prove. The tower hours are posted. Check the last time a flight lands for the night and I guarantee it will be after that time. He did, it was, and yet he still refused to believe me. The sad fact is, people would probably riot if they found this out, because they'd think it was horribly dangerous, but it's been standard operating procedure for decades now and no one has even noticed. It hasn't caused a single crash. Believe it or not, it's actually safer to come in after hours because of the reduced traffic. This is not something that needs fixing, it's a very logical move. But I'll bet there are even people reading this that won't believe it. Unless you work in aviation, you probably don't know any of this. Dopamine isn't the pleasure chemical. You see the misconception all the time. Someone indulges in their favorite vice and says gotta get my dopamine rush. But dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about craving. Our dopamine levels don't spike when we get something we want. They spike when something we want becomes available, and go down once we actually get the pleasurable thing. Dopamine isn't the rush of driving fast, it's the green light that tells you to go edit. Obligatory thanks for the silver and RIP my inbox. And like some folks have pointed out, I'm oversimplifying for the sake of brevity. Dopamine has a lot of functions, different pathways and receptor sites, etc. But for what I'm talking about, here are some sources, with a handy little infographic. Featuring the inimitable Bob Sapolsky. Long Island iced teas do not have iced tea in them. Or Long Island. Leaning your head back is actually worse for a nosebleed. Robin Williams didn't kill himself because he was depressed. He killed himself because he had Lewy body dementia, a degenerative brain disease. His autopsy showed that he had one of the worst cases ever seen. His wife has confirmed that he had about 50 symptoms, and depression was one of the least intense. His best friend, Bobcat Goldthwait, has also confirmed it wasn't depression or substance abuse that caused him to commit suicide. Your flight isn't delayed because the tower says so. They blame it on us, air traffic control, because if the airlines admit the blame on themselves they may have to reimburse you. Edit, it's weather 90% of the time. This is really specific, but in most anatomy or biomechanics textbooks the ankle joint is classified as a second-class lever with the ball of the foot labeled as the fulcrum. This is incorrect as the system rotates about the ankle joint, not the ball of the foot. Therefore it is a first-class lever, not second. This right here is the hill I will die on. Diamonds can in fact be shattered with a hammer. There is a difference between how strong something is and how hard it is. A heart attack and cardiac arrest are not the same thing. Some severe heart attacks can lead to cardiac arrest. However, there are many that experience heart attacks unknowingly and carry on their merry way. Edit, wow, this blew up. Thank you so much for the upvotes and thank you kind stranger for the award. Message is a natural substance. If you say you're allergic to message, you're allergic to tomatoes and cabbage and all kinds of natural food. Einstein didn't fail math. That the air in your bag of chips isn't oxygen but nitrogen so that your product doesn't stale. The low man on the totem pole was actually the strongest in the Native American societies because he held up the rest of the tribe. A defibrillator will not restart a heart, it will only stop fibrillation. Edit, holy fuck. Didn't expect that. If you end up in a higher tax bracket, only the income above that bracket gets taxed at the new percentage. A watched pot will actually boil. Thank you for watching and check the link in the description to see how this video was made.